first thing I remember is the silence. Not the silence of space, that vast, humming quiet you get used to after months aboard a starbound vessel. No, this was different. It was a terrestrial silence, oppressive and heavy, as if the entire planet was holding its breath. We'd named the planet Orpheus-7, one of the more Earth-like candidates on the frontier of the Circean belt. It had breathable air, stable gravity, and no immediate signs of intelligent life. That last part was the most important. The colonization initiative had made it clear: no interference, no contact. If there was even the hint of indigenous sentience, we were to withdraw and classify the system as protected. But Orpheus-7 passed every preliminary scan. Barren, save for dense forests of fibrous black trees and smooth plains dotted with odd silver-colored boulders. The atmosphere tasted clean, though strangely sweet on the tongue, like ozone after lightning. It was cold, not unbearable, just biting. Even the sunlight couldn't quite cut through the thick, low-hanging clouds that clung to the sky like wet fabric. We landed with a crew of 7. Captain Mallory, our discipline commander, Jonah, the biologist, with a mouth that never stopped moving, Dr. Varma, our linguistic specialist, and the one I ended up closest to. I was part of the team for psychological mapping, profiling the planet's environment to predict long-term habitation effects. There was also Graham, the engineer, and twin geologists named Beck. The first 2 days were routine. We set up a prefabricated shelter in the shadow of a shallow ridge. The ground was soft, almost spongy, and our boots would sometimes sink a few inches with a soft sucking noise. Flora samples were collected. Radiation levels remained optimal. No fauna detected, aside from some worm-like things we found beneath the soil, blind and translucent. It was the third night when we heard the howling. None of us slept. The sound came from the direction of the forest, about 100 meters east of camp. Low, mournful, and wrong. Not mechanical, not animal, something else. A chorus of jagged, overlapping moans and shrieks, like voices mimicking wolves without understanding what a wolf is. Mallory posted a night watch rotation, and we all agreed it was probably geothermal, a vent or pressure release deep underground. A rational explanation, but no one really believed it. The next day, we found the marks. While collecting mineral samples near the forest edge, Graham spotted them. Long, narrow furrows in the soil, as though something had scraped 5 immense claws through the earth. Each groove was nearly 2 feet deep. The moss that carpeted the area had been shredded, exposing a strange clay-like underlayer that stank faintly of copper. Jonah joked about space bears. Mallory didn't laugh. She ordered all excursions cut to half range and requested emergency uplink to command. They wouldn't receive our report for another 16 hours. That night, something moved just outside the perimeter. I was on watch when I saw it, shadow against shadow, moving between the metallic boulders dotting the field. There was no wind, no rustling, just a flicker, a shape, tall, not quite humanoid, not quite bestial. It watched from the edge of the floodlights, just beyond their reach. When I blinked, it was gone. I didn't mention it until morning. Mallory didn't question my sanity. That's how I knew something was wrong. She simply nodded and ordered motion sensors installed in a wider radius. Then she told us no one was to leave the shelter alone, not even to piss. On the 5th day, Beck 1 didn't come back. He'd gone out with his brother to collect samples just beyond the ridge. They'd been 15 minutes late returning, a minor delay, but enough to send us scrambling. Beck too was found alone, standing at the camp edge, covered in dirt and crying. He couldn't speak, not from fear, physically couldn't. His voice was gone, not hoarse, not hold, absent. Varma examined his throat and found no damage, no trauma, just silence. We found Beck 1's boots 30 meters from the forest, just the boots, standing upright in the mud. Inside each boot was a layer of fine white ash. Not a single footprint led away from them. Varma was the first to voice what we'd all begun to suspect. "These boulders," she said, gesturing to the smooth silver protrusions scattered across the plains. "They're not geological. They're arranged in patterns, like sentry posts, watch points." Jonah laughed, but it was hollow. "You're saying the rocks are, what, guards?" "No," she said. "I'm saying they're warnings." From then on, it was clear we were not alone. Worse, we had been seen. Mallory enacted lockdown protocol. We were to remain inside unless absolutely necessary. The shelter was reinforced, but that meant nothing out here. The wilderness was indifferent to alloys and bolt-tighten locks. That night, the howling returned. Closer, more deliberate. It no longer sounded like an echo. The power flickered twice. When it came back on, the perimeter lights had been rearranged. Some twisted toward the camp, as though someone or something had physically adjusted them to shine inward. We reviewed camera feeds, all static, white noise and a faint humming, like a whisper recorded underwater. We stopped watching after a few minutes. The humming felt wrong, too rhythmic, too deliberate. Then Graham vanished. He had gone into the utility trench to service the backup battery, a 10-minute job. We found the wrench still turning on the cable. It spun in place slowly, as if an invisible hand had just released it. He wasn't there. No signs of struggle. His comm unit was found later, wedged into the trunk of a tree 30 meters from the trench. The tree had grown around it, swallowing it in a way that made no biological sense. The bark was smooth but pulsed faintly when touched, like breathing. Dr. Varma began deciphering the patterns. The marks we'd thought were claw scars. There were too many, too ordered. She began mapping them, realizing they repeated. Symbols, a kind of script. Eventually she made contact, or believed she had. She claimed to hear things when she stared too long at the boulders, chanting, distant and buried in stone. Her preliminary translation of the script was chilling. "We are beneath the dreaming skin." We weren't sure what it meant. We were sure we didn't want to know. Then came the visitation. It was the 8th night. Outside, the wind had picked up, howling with voices too articulate to be natural. That was when the door knock came. 3 sharp, deliberate taps. We froze. No one moved to answer. The knocks repeated. Then came a voice, raspy, gargled, but unmistakably mimicking human speech. "Open. I watch." Varma collapsed. Seizure. Eyes rolled back. She scratched the words, "Underneath is above," into the metal floor with her own fingernail. She never woke again. Her pulse remained strong, her breathing steady. But she was gone. Her mind had left something behind. After that, Mallory made the call to evacuate. We prepped the shuttle within the hour. The winds howled louder. The forest seemed to move, trees bending inward as if reaching for us. As we activated launch sequence, all monitors went black and displayed a single image. Not a face, a mask, elongated, bestial, hollow eyes, made of the same silver as the boulders, the same sheen. The image pulsed in time with our heart rates. Then the shuttle powered down. We never launched. That was 1 year ago. We're still here, trapped. There are 4 of us now. We do not speak of the night. Beck too walks in circles each day, retracing his brother's last steps. Jonah no longer jokes. He simply stares at the boulders, sometimes whispering, sometimes laughing to himself. Mallory prays, but not to any god I recognize. They watch us from beyond the trees. Tall shapes, always just beyond view. Their limbs are too long, their postures wrong. They build nothing. They destroy nothing. They wait. I believe they're listening, learning, borrowing our voices, our faces, our thoughts. Sometimes I hear Varma's voice in the dark, but she never says my name.